There's a place in Skyrim where the air hums with the echoes of forgotten spells, where the walls themselves seem to whisper secrets lost to time. The College of Winterhold stands as a beacon of arcane knowledge, its ancient halls cloaked in frost and mystery, a sanctuary for those brave enough to seek its truths. Tonight, we step into the shoes of a young scholar named Alara, her heart alight with curiosity as she crosses the threshold of this legendary institution. What draws her here isn't just the promise of power, but the haunting enigma of the Arch-Mage who vanished without a trace. Can you feel it? That shiver of anticipation, the weight of the unknown pressing against your shoulders. It's the same sensation Alara feels as the gates creak open, welcoming her into a world where every shadow could hold a clue, every tome a revelation. Where are you joining us from tonight? Is the sky outside your window dark with the hush of midnight, or is dawn just beginning to paint the horizon? Let us know in the comments below, because this isn't just Alara's journey, it's ours. Together, we'll unravel the tangled threads of Winterhold's past, where magic and mystery intertwine like the strands of an ancient spell. The college isn't merely a school, it's a living puzzle, its corridors lined with questions waiting to be answered. Why did the Archmage disappear? What forces linger in the depths of the Midden, or behind the sealed doors of the Arcane? Alara's quest is one of courage and cunning, but it's also a testament to the timeless allure of the unknown. Picture this: the wind howls through the stone arches, carrying with it the faint scent of burning candle wax and aged parchment. Somewhere in the distance, a distant chime rings, a remnant of a spell cast centuries ago, still echoing through the halls. This is where the boundaries of reality blur, where the mundane gives way to the miraculous. As Alara's boots click against the worn flagstones, she knows the answers she seeks won't come easily. The college guards its secrets well, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The thrill of the hunt, the slow unraveling of a mystery that's waited generations to be solved. So settle in, dear traveler. The story of Winterhold is about to unfold, and trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment of what lies ahead. Alara's fingers brush against the cracked spine of a spell tome, its leather binding brittle with age. Master Wizard Tolfdir had called this task menial, a test of patience for new apprentices. But the way the ink glimmers faintly under candlelight tells another story. These aren't just words, they're echoes. Each faded glyph on the parchment thrums with the residue of long-lost incantations, as if the very air remembers the hands that first penned them. Her quick scribbles in her own notebook feel clumsy by comparison, but she can't shake the sense that these pages are watching her back. That's when she sees it, a hairline gap in the bookshelf's paneling, too straight to be natural. Her pulse quickens as she traces it with her thumb, until a gravelly voice shatters the silence. You'll find no shortcuts to magic, girl. Urag Grosheub looms behind her, arms crossed over his barrel chest, his yellowed tusks glinting in the firelight. Elara murmurs an apology, snapping the book shut, but the librarian's glare lingers long after he stomps away. The message is clear. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. But as moonlight spills through the high windows, painting silver trails across the stone floor, she swears the hidden compartment hums faintly in the dark. Like a heartbeat, waiting, the Arcaneum's silence is deceptive. Beneath the rustle of turning pages and the occasional screech of a chair leg, there's a whisper of something older. The books here aren't just stored, they're quarantined. Chains clasp the most dangerous volumes shut, their titles etched in languages that twist the eyes if stared at too long. Alara pretends to focus on her transcription, but her gaze keeps darting back to that suspicious seam in the wood. What could the college hide in plain sight, sandwiched between treatises on alchemy and star charts? Her mind races with possibilities: a rogue mage's journal, a map to the fabled Eye of Magnus, or worse, something even the Arch-Mage feared enough to conceal. The cough that startled her earlier wasn't just a warning, it was a distraction. Urag moves through the stacks with the precision of a jailer, his heavy boots telegraphing his path, yet his shadow always seems to fall just a second too late. As if the library itself aids his watch. By the time the candles gutter low, Alara's wrist aches from hours of copying, but her resolve has hardened. She leaves her notes strewn across the desk, a decoy for prying eyes, and lingers near the doorway, counting Urag's footsteps as they fade down the corridor. The college's enchantments thrum against her skin as she creeps back toward the shelf, the air thickening with each step. Magic here isn't just taught, it's woven into the walls, a living thing that tenses at trespassers. Her fingertips graze the hidden edge again, and this time she feels the faintest vibration, a resonance that mirrors the rhythm of her own breath. The wood yields slightly under pressure, but before she can pry further, a gust of wind slams a distant shutter shut. The noise ricochets through the hall like a gunshot. Heart hammering, Alara melts into the shadows, pressing herself against a pillar as bootsteps thunder closer. The game has changed. Someone or something doesn't want that compartment found, and now it knows she's looking. The Arcaneum at midnight is a different beast entirely. No shuffling robes, no murmuring students, just the slow breath of history settling into the stones. Moonlight slants through the high windows like silver blades, cutting through the darkness to illuminate motes of dust dancing in the air. Alara's pulse thrums in her ears as she kneels before the suspicious shelf, her fingers working at the hidden seam with painstaking care. The wood groans softly, then gives way with a click that sounds impossibly loud in the stillness. Inside lies a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with a symbol she's only seen in whispers, a spiraling eye wreathed in flame. The Arch-Mage's personal sigil. The moment she touches the journal, a current of energy licks up her arm, subtle but undeniable, like static, clinging to skin after a storm. The first page cracks open with reluctance, its parchment brittle, yet humming beneath her fingertips. The Arch-Mage's handwriting is frantic, ink blotted in places as if his quill had trembled. The eye does not sleep. It reads, it watches, and it hungers. Alara's breath catches as she turns the page, each sentence pulling her deeper into a labyrinth of dread and fascination. The Arch-Mage writes of an artifact older than the college itself, a relic of such raw power that it warps reality around it. The Eye of Magnus, not a mere tool, but a sentient force, one that had been buried for a reason. A faint blue glow begins to pulse between the pages, casting eerie shadows across Alara's face. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of ozone, and she realizes with a jolt that the journal isn't just a record, it's a conduit. Every word she reads vibrates through the room, stirring something deep within the college's bones. The walls seem to lean closer, the bookshelves creaking as if straining to listen. Then, a sound that stops her blood cold, a distant, rhythmic tapping, like nails against glass. It's coming from the far corner of the library, where the oldest, most forbidden texts are kept under lock and chain. Alara slams the journal shut, but the glow lingers, seeping through her fingers like liquid light. The tapping grows louder, more insistent. Something in the darkness has awakened. And it knows her name. The morning light slices through the frosted windows of the Hall of the Elements, too bright, too sharp, as if the sun itself is conspiring against her. Elara barely has time to smooth the creases from her robes before a junior apprentice delivers the summons with trembling hands. Ancano requests your presence, the boy mutters, already backing away as though the words might burn him. The name hangs in the air like a threat. The Thalmor advisor stands silhouetted against the pale glow of the mage lights, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. His office is immaculate, every quill and parchment arranged with military precision, but the air smells faintly of charred paper, as if something had recently been burned in haste. You keep unusual hours, apprentice. Ancano begins, his voice polished smooth as ice. He doesn't turn to face her. The Arcaneum is no place for midnight wanderings. Unless, of course, you've found something worth losing sleep over. Alara's pulse stutters, but she keeps her voice steady, just transcribing Master Tolfdir's lectures on alteration theory. The library's quieter at night. The lie tastes bitter, but it's plausible enough. Every apprentice knows the Thalmor's reputation, how they peel secrets from dissenters like bark from a birch. Ancano finally turns, his golden eyes glinting with something colder than curiosity. How diligent. He circles her slowly, his robes whispering against the stone. And yet, Urag Grosheub reports a disturbance near the restricted section. A shelf left, altered. His hand drifts toward her shoulder, stopping just short of contact. The near touch is worse than a grip. Strange, isn't it? How often accidents precede revelations. Alara forces herself to meet his gaze. The journal's weight still lingers in her satchel, hidden beneath a false bottom, but Ancano's scrutiny feels like fingers prying at the seams of her mind. I wouldn't know, she says. I was too busy with my notes to notice. A flicker of irritation crosses his face. There and gone like a shadow. See that you remain. Focused, he says, emphasizing the word as if it's a shackle. The college tolerates many things, but meddling in affairs beyond one station. His smile is a blade. That rarely ends well. The dismissal is abrupt. Elara walks away with her spine rigid, but the back of her neck prickles under the weight of his stare. Ancano knows, not everything, perhaps, but enough, and as she steps into the corridor, she swears the torches gutter in their sconces, just for a heartbeat, as if the very flames are holding their breath. Berlina Marion's quarters smell of burnt marshmallow and crushed glow dust, a chaotic collage of half-finished potions and scattered scrolls that mirrors the whirlwind of her mind. Elara finds her bent over a bubbling alembic, the greenish fumes curling around her dark braids like living things. The moment the journal thuds onto the table between them, Berlina's hands freeze mid-stir. Her eyes, sharp as flint, flick from the spiraling eye sigil to Alara's tense expression. No words are needed. Some truths hang too heavy for small talk. You realize this is madness, Berlina murmurs, but her fingers are already tracing the journal's embossed cover with a scholar's hunger. The Sijics haven't set foot in Winterhold in eras. Even the Archmage couldn't lure them back after. Her voice trails off as she flips to a page where the ink has bled into thorny, unnatural patterns. The symbols seem to shift under the candlelight, resisting comprehension. But this reeks of their meddling. The eye isn't just an artifact. It's a wound in the world. And wounds attract scavengers. Alara leans closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Ancano's watching me. He knows I found something. The admission hangs between them, taut as a drawn bowstring. Berlina's lips press into a thin line. They both know the Thalmor's reputation. Gilded smiles hiding knives. A sudden crackle from the alembic makes them both jump. The liquid inside has turned an eerie violet, though the fire beneath it burns steady blue. Berlina swears under her breath in Dunmurray, snatching the journal away just as a single droplet bubbles over the rim. Where it hits the table, the wood blackens instantly, smoking like rotten flesh. Restricted section, she declares, slamming a tome over the sizzling hole. Tonight, before whatever's in these pages decides to wake up fully, the plan forms in hurried whispers between the shelves of Berlina's cluttered alcove. They'll need diversion, a minor alchemical explosion in the courtyard, perhaps, to draw Urag's attention. Berlina knows a blind spot in the library's wards, a gap in the enchantments where two conflicting spells overlap like poorly woven thread. But if we're caught, she warns, tucking the journal into her own satchel with surprising steadiness, we won't just be expelled. The Thalmor have cages for people who ask the wrong questions. Elara's laugh is brittle. Then we'd better ask the right ones. Outside, the wind howls through Winterhold's ruins, carrying with it the faint, discordant chime of a broken bell. Or maybe it's laughter. Somewhere beneath their feet, the earth thrums not with the college's familiar magical pulse, but something slower, hungrier. Waiting, the Midden's air clings thick with the scent of damp stone, and something sharper ozone, maybe, or the metallic tang of old blood. Alara's torch gutters as she steps over a shattered skeleton, its bones bleached white by centuries of silence. Berlina's voice is barely audible over the drip of distant water. This place wasn't just forgotten, it was sealed. The wall before them is no ordinary barrier. It's a tapestry of Nordic runes, their grooves filled with a substance that glows faintly blue when Alara's light touches it. Not paint, not ink, something alive. The journal's spell burns on Alara's tongue as she recites it, each syllable pulling at the air like a thread unraveling a stitch in reality. The runes flare brighter, then dim one by one, as if snuffed out by an unseen hand. The door groans open, not with the creak of hinges, but with a sound like a held breath finally released. Beyond it, the chamber pulses. Magical energy swirls in visible currents, eddying around shattered pillars and the remnants of an altar. The Eye of Magnus isn't here not anymore, but its echo lingers. The very stones seem warped, their edges blurred as if viewed through heat haze. Then, a whisper, not from Berlina, not from the journal, from the air itself. The ghost materializes like smoke, condensing into shape, a robed figure with hollow eyes, his form flickering between solid and spectral. The Archmage spirit doesn't speak so much as carve words directly into their minds. You should not have come. His voice is layered, overlapping, as if a dozen versions of him are speaking at once across time. The eye is not a tool. It is a test, one the Thalmor will fail, and take the world with them. Berlina's hand finds Alara's wrist, her grip tight. Then why hide the truth? The ghost's gaze shifts to her, and for a heartbeat, the chamber's energy stills. Because some doors, he murmurs, should stay locked. Behind him, the swirling magic coalesces into a vision, a city in flames, its towers crumbling under a sky split by a single, unblinking eye. The image lasts only a second before shattering like glass. When Alara blinks, the ghost is gone. Only the hum of the chamber remains, a warning vibrating in their bones. The real question isn't what the Archmage hid. It's who he was hiding it from, and whether they're already too late. The moment their boots hit the upper stairwell, the ambush strikes. Ancano's agents materialize from the shadows like blades unsheathed, their golden armor glinting under the flickering mage lights. Hand over the journal, Ancano commands, his voice smooth as a honed edge. This is no longer a game for children. Berlina's grip tightens on the satchel, her other hand already weaving the first threads of a lightning spell, but the Thalmor are faster. A whip crack of bound magic lashes through the air, severing her incantation before it can form. Alara doesn't think. She grabs Berlina's wrist and bolts. The college corridors twist like a living maze, every archway, an alcove a potential trap or refuge. Behind them, the Thalmor's footfalls echo with military precision, their spells scorching the stone where Alara's heels were half a second prior. A fireball explodes against a tapestry ahead, sending embers raining down like deadly confetti. Berlina ducks left, yanking Alara into the Hall of Countenance, just as an icy shard embeds itself in the doorframe. "They're hurting us," she gasps, her eyes darting to the windows too high, the exits too far. Then Alara spots it, a sconce set slightly askew, its metal worn smooth by generations of furtive hands. The hidden passage groans open, just as Ancano rounds the corner, his face a mask of cold fury. The last thing Alara sees before the wall seals shut is the way his fingers twitch toward his hip, where a soul gem pulses with stolen magic. The tunnel beyond is narrow, reeking of mildew and the iron tang of old blood, but it's theirs. For now, Berlina's breath comes in ragged bursts as they stumble through the darkness. "They knew we'd go to the Midden," she whispers. "They were waiting." Alara's pulse hammers against her ribs. The Thalmor don't just want the journal, they're hunting for the eye itself. And if the Archmage's ghost was right, their arrogance could tear the world apart. Somewhere above, a door slams. The hunt isn't over. It's only just begun. Dreams aren't just whispers of the subconscious in Winterhold. They're doorways. Alara's eyelids flutter shut, and suddenly she's standing in a realm where the sky isn't sky at all, but a swirling tapestry of fractured memories and half-formed spells. The air thrums with a harmony older than the college's stones, a melody that makes her teeth ache. Before her, a figure materializes from the mist, his robe stitched with constellations that shift when she blinks. The Sijic's voice is neither loud nor soft, but everywhere, as if the wind itself is shaping his words. The eye stirs, he says, and the ground beneath her bare feet trembles in response. Threads of time unravel around it. You've seen the cracks in the journal, in the Midden, in the way magic bends where it should break. His hand extends, palm upturned, and for a heartbeat, Alara sees it reflected in the vision. A city buried under ice, its ruins glowing with the same blue fire as the Arch-Mage's runes. Sarthal, the name hits her like a spell, searing itself into her mind just as the dream shatters. She wakes with a gasp, her fingers clawing at the sweat-damp sheets. The dormitory is silent, but her skin prickles with the residue of impossible knowledge. Sijics don't intervene, not unless the world itself is at stake. Berlina stirs in the neighboring cot, mumbling in her sleep, but Alara is already scribbling the vision's fragments onto a scrap of parchment before they fade. The ink smudges under her trembling hand. Sarthal, the ancient Nord city, older than Winterhold's founding, older than the college itself, a place of firsts. First city of men, first betrayal, and if the Sijic's warning holds weight, first tomb of the eye. Dawn hasn't yet grayed the windows when she shakes Berlina awake. Her friend's eyes widen at the name. That's not just ruins, she breathes. It's a graveyard, and graveyards in Skyrim have a habit of not staying buried. The journal's pages flutter open to a sketch they'd overlooked before a map, faded but legible, with Sarthal circled in ink that still glistens like fresh blood. The Archmage didn't just hide the truth, he left a trail, and at the end of it, either salvation or a storm that could swallow the sun. The choice is simple, really. Walk into the dark, or wait for the dark to come to them. Outside, the wind carries the scent of snow and something sharper, ozone, maybe, or the electric tang of a spell about to snap. Winterhold's ruins groan in the distance, a reminder that even stones remember their fall. Alara straps her dagger to her thigh, the metal icy against her skin. Some quests begin with fanfare and glory. This one begins with a whisper, a name, and the terrible understanding that some doors, once opened, can never be shut again. The road to Sarthal is a scar cut through the tundra, a jagged path of ice and crumbling stone that groans underfoot like a living thing. Alara's breath fogs in the pre-dawn chill, each step pressing her deeper into a silence so thick it feels deliberate. Berlina moves like a shadow beside her, her Dunmer eyes scanning the horizon for Thalmor silhouettes. They've barely spoken since leaving Winterhold. Some fears are too brittle to voice. The ruins rise from the earth like broken teeth, their edges softened by centuries of wind and snow. Yet the entrance yawns unnaturally clean, as if the very rock had parted to welcome or warn them. The air inside is stale, thick with the weight of buried time, but beneath it thrums something else, a vibration, a pulse. Alara's fingertips brush the wall as they descend, and the stone tingles against her skin, humming with residual magic. The journal's map had marked this place, but no parchment could capture the way the corridor seems to breathe, its walls contracting slightly with each flicker of their torchlight. Then the chamber. It opens suddenly, a vast hollow where the ceiling arches into darkness and the floor dips toward a dais. At its center, suspended in a cradle of carved Nordic runes, the Eye of Magnus spins lazily, its surface shifting between solid and liquid, metal and light. It's smaller than Elara, imagined no larger than a skull, but its presence is a physical weight, pressing against her ribs with each radiant pulse. The air smells of lightning and old blood. Berlina's grip on her arm is the only thing that stops her from stepping closer. "Don't," she hisses, but the warning comes too late. The moment Alara's gaze locks onto the eye, the world tilts. Visions flood her mind, towers of glass shattering under a black sun, a chorus of voices screaming in a language that burns a hand, her hand reaching toward the artifact as flames consume the sky. The connection snaps just as abruptly, leaving her gasping, her nose bleeding freely onto the stone. That's when the footsteps echo. Ancano's voice is a blade sheathed in silk. Remarkable, the apprentices outpace their masters. His Thalmor agents fan out behind him, their golden armor reflecting the eye's glow like a distorted halo. The artifact's pulse quickens, its light strobing in time with Alara's racing heart. Ancano doesn't rush. He strolls toward the dais as if he already owns it, his fingers outstretched. "You've done the Aldmeri Dominion a great service," he murmurs, though his eyes never leave the eye. But some tools are too delicate for untrained hands. Berlina's spell ignites first, a whip crack of violet energy aimed at the nearest agent. Chaos erupts. The Thalmor retaliate with disciplined precision, their ice spells frosting the air between heartbeats. Elara ducks behind a pillar, her fingers scrabbling for the dagger at her thigh, but the real threat isn't the blades or the magic. It's the way the eye's radiance intensifies with every shouted incantation, its surface rippling like water struck by stones. The runes around it begin to smolder. Ancano doesn't notice. His hand closes over the artifact, and for a single, suspended moment, triumph lights his face. Then the chamber screams. The force that erupts from the eye isn't light or heat. It's pure negation, a wave of energy that turns sound inside out and flattens the air. Elara is thrown backward, her skull cracking against stone as the world fractures into blinding white. The last thing she sees before darkness swallows her is Ancano's silhouette, not fleeing the maelstrom, but merging with it, his body dissolving into the eye's searing embrace. Somewhere beyond the roar, Berlina is shouting her name, or maybe it's the wind, or the eye itself. When consciousness returns, it comes in fragments. The chamber is eerily intact, the runes dark, the dais empty. No Thalmor, no artifact, only the echo of a presence too vast to name, lingering in the taste of the air like the aftertaste of a thunderclap. Alara's hands shake as she pushes herself upright. The journal's final page floats into her muddled vision, its ink now scorched into a single, looping sentence. The eye chooses. Berlina's voice is raw with panic. They're gone, all of them, but the eye. Elara doesn't answer. Her throat is too tight, her mind still ringing with the memory of those visions. Because now she understands. Ancano didn't steal the artifact, it stole him. Blood roars in Alara's ears as she stumbles through Sarthal's crumbling arches, her lungs burning with each gasping breath. Behind her, the Thalmor's shouts have turned to screams raw, guttural things that dissolve into the unnatural howl of the eye's unleashed power. Berlina's absence is a physical wound. She'd seen the flash of golden gauntlets, dragging her friend into the chaos, those final words still ringing between them, "Run." The college's spires pierce the horizon ahead, but they waver like mirages through the tears she won't let fall. Magic isn't just failing here, it's unraveling. The snow beneath her boots crackles with stray sparks, and the wind carries whispers in a language that wasn't meant for mortal tongues. Tolfdir's chambers reek of crushed frost murium and panic when she bursts in, her voice cracking like thin ice. They took Berlina, the Eye. It's awake. The old mage's quill freezes mid-scratch, his rheumy eyes widening as they flick to the window. Outside, the sky above Winterhold churns, the clouds spiraling around an invisible point where Sarthal lies. You brought the Thalmor to it, he murmurs, not as accusation, but as grim confirmation. His chair groans as he stands, fingers tracing the air where the college's wards shimmer like fractured glass. The Arch-Mage's final lesson, he says softly. Some locks aren't meant to hold forever. The faculty assembles in the Hall of the Elements with the grim efficiency of those who have long dreaded this moment. Feralda's flames gutter, blue without her command, while Jezargo's tail lashes like a metronome, counting down to ruin. Tolfdir's voice, usually a meandering river of theory, is now a blade. Ancano sought to wield the eye as a weapon. Instead, he's become its kindling. The words land like a death knell. Alara's hands fist in her robes, the journal's warnings etched behind her eyelids. The eye doesn't just hunger, it consumes, and Winterhold, built atop layers of buried secrets, is the perfect feast. A tremor shakes the hall, toppling a row of alchemy vials. The liquid inside doesn't spill. It floats, droplets quivering midair as gravity itself stutters. Urag Grosheub, of all people, is the first to step forward, his tusked jaw set. Libraries warded against reality benders, he grunts. Might buy us time, but if that thing's really waking up, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. The college's stones groan in agreement, the ancient enchantments in their mortar straining like overtuned strings. Alara's plea is raw. We can't leave Berlina to them. The silence that follows is thick enough to choke on. Then Tolfdir does something unexpected. He laughs. A dry, weary sound. Oh, my dear girl, we're not leaving anyone. His staff strikes the floor, and for the first time in decades, the old mage's spine straightens with something like battle-ready certainty. We're going to remind the Thalmor why this college stood when the rest of Winterhold fell. Outside, the storm above Sarthal pulses like a heartbeat. The eye's energy paints the snow in ghostly hues, a creeping aurora that slithers toward the town with predatory patience. Time's not just running out, it's fracturing, and somewhere in the eye of that maelstrom, Berlina's fighting a war on two fronts, against the Thalmor's chains and the artifacts whispering madness. Alara's fingers find the dagger at her thigh again. This isn't just a rescue, it's a reckoning. The Hall of the Elements thrums with a tension thicker than storm clouds. Every mage, from gray-bearded masters to wide-eyed apprentices, standing shoulder to shoulder in a circle that hasn't been formed since the Great Collapse. Tolfdir's voice cuts through the low hum of spellwork, steady as a hammer on anvil. Shields first, then containment. The air shimmers as layers of ward spells weave together, a tapestry of light and willpower, stretching from floor to ceiling. Feralda's fire magic braids with Jezargo's lightning, their combined energy forming a crackling lattice that pulses in time with the distant, erratic heartbeat of the eye. Even Urag Grosheub is here, his massive hands moving with surprising delicacy as he inscribes Dwemer runes into the stone, ancient words meant to anchor reality itself. Elara watches from the periphery, the Sijic's visions burning behind her eyes like brands. The artifact isn't just a tool or a weapon. It's a living paradox, a knot in the fabric of magic that tightens the more one pulls at it. Ancano's mistake was thinking he could control it. Her fingers trace the journal's last page, where the Archmage's final warning curls like a noose. To fight the storm, you must become the lightning. A hand grips her elbow. Berlina's face is pale beneath the soot, her robes torn where Thalmor manacles had bitten deep. They're using the eye like a lodestone, she rasps. Ancano's not channeling it, he's feeding it. Every spell they cast just makes it hungrier. Her gaze flicks to the window, where the horizon bleeds violet. We can't outpower it, but we might outthink it. The plan unfolds in hissed whispers between shield rotations. The Sijics had shown Alara the threads, the way the eye's energy spirals outward in patterns too precise to be chaos. Like a lock, and every lock has a key. We don't break the connection. Elara murmurs, pressing a piece of chalk into Berlina's palm. We redirect it. While the faculty's spells hold the college's crumbling walls against the storm, the two women work feverishly in the Arcaneum's heart. Berlina's chalk races across the floor, sketching a mirror of the runes from Sarthal's chamber. But inverted, their curves reversed. Like calls to like, she mutters, her hands trembling only slightly. If the eye wants a conduit, we'll give it one, just not the one it expects. Outside, the wind screams like a dying thing. The wards groan under the strain, their light flickering as the eye's pulse grows louder, closer. Tolfdir's shout echoes through the halls. Now or never, girls. Elara's dagger flashes, her own blood spilling onto the central rune. The moment the crimson hits the chalk, the symbols ignite, their glow not the eye's hungry blue, but the gold of dawn breaking. Somewhere in the maelstrom, Ancano's triumphant cry twists into something raw and terrified. The backlash hits like a tidal wave, not of destruction, but of unraveling. The Thalmor's borrowed power snaps back through them like a lash, their spells dissolving midair as the eye's attention pivots, drawn to the sweeter, sharper call of the Arcaneum's sigils. For one heartbeat, the college holds its breath, then the world bends. The hall of the elements has never felt so small. The air crackles with raw energy, each breath tasting of ozone and something older, something that shouldn't exist in this world. Ancano stands at the center of the maelstrom, his form wreathed in the eye's azure fire, his laughter a jagged thing that scrapes against the stones. You see now, don't you? His voice is no longer his own. It layers upon itself, echoing with the weight of countless whispers. Power isn't taken, it's revealed. Elara's fingers tremble, but not from fear. The spells she's cobbled together from half-finished lessons and stolen glimpses into forbidden tomes hum beneath her skin, a fragile arsenal against a storm. She doesn't wait for him to strike first. A whip of lightning lashes from her palm, splitting the air with a thunderclap. But Ancano doesn't flinch. The energy bends around him, absorbed into the vortex of the eye's radiance. His counterattack isn't a spell, it's an unraveling. The ground beneath her feet liquefies, stone flowing like water, and suddenly she's sinking, the floor swallowing her ankles. Her knees, Berlina's voice cuts through the chaos. Vokun, the illusion shatters like glass, revealing solid stone where quicks and had been. Ancano snarls, his golden eyes narrowing at the Dunmer's interference. You cling to petty tricks. He sneers, but Alara is already moving, her dagger carving a sigil into the air. A desperate gambit from the journal's final page. The rune ignites, not with fire, but with absence, a void that drinks the light around it. For the first time, Ancano staggers, the eyes glow stutters. The duel becomes a dance of annihilation. Frost meets fire, force clashes with negation, each spell a fragile dam against a flood that threatens to drown them all. Elara's muscles scream, her magic fraying at the edges, but she doesn't relent. When Ancano hurls a spear of crystallized magic at her chest, she doesn't dodge. She catches it, the impact driving her backward, her boots scoring trenches in the stone. The pain is white-hot, blinding, but she channels it, twists it, and sends it back tenfold. It still isn't enough. Ancano's next gesture is almost lazy. The air itself folds, and suddenly Alara is pinned by invisible hands, her breath crushed from her lungs. The eye pulses above him, its surface boiling with stolen power. You were always a means to an end, he murmurs, stepping closer, a spark to light the pyre. His fingers brush her forehead, and the world dissolves into agony, then silence. Not the absence of sound, but the consumption of it. The Sijics materialize like figures stepping through a mist, their robes untouched by the chaos. The oldest among them lifts a hand, and time itself hesitates. Enough. The word isn't spoken. It's woven into reality, a thread pulled taut. Ancano's triumph curdles into horror, as the eye's energy recoils not from him, but through him. His body fractures, light seeping from the cracks, his scream lost in the vortex, as the artifact's power turns inward. The last thing Alara sees before darkness takes her is the Sijic's outstretched hand, his eyes holding the weight of centuries. Some doors, he murmurs, should never have been opened. Then the eye's light winks out, and Winterhold holds its breath. The dust settles over Winterhold like a sigh, the college's shattered spires silhouetted against a sky, finally free of the eye's unnatural glow. The Sijics leave no footprints as they depart, the artifact cradled in their leader's arms like a sleeping viper. Its absence hums in the air, not as relief, but as the quiet after a scream. Elara's hands still tremble, the whether from exhaustion or the echoes of that final, wrenching severance, she can't say. Around her, the survivors move like ghosts through the rubble, their voices hushed as if fearing the walls might still be listening. Tolfdir finds her perched on a broken pillar, her fingers tracing the fresh scars left by unraveled magic. We rebuild, he says, offering a water skin that smells faintly of frost murium. His usual twinkle is dulled, but not gone. Always have. The words are meant to comfort, but Alara's gaze drifts to the crater where the Hall of Countenance once stood. Rebuilding assumes the foundation remains intact. What happens when the ground itself has learned to distrust its own laws? The celebration that night is a fragile thing, more ember than flame. Mead flows and laughter rings, but every toast carries the weight of unspoken questions. Berlina presses a tankard into Alara's hands, her own fingers still bandaged from Thalmor manacles. They'll call you the savior of Winterhold, she murmurs, nodding to where a group of starry-eyed apprentices whisper behind their sleeves. Alara's stomach twists. Heroes get statues. Statues gather dust, and dust, given enough time, becomes something else entirely. Urag Grosheub surprises them all by raising his voice above the chatter. Libraries standing, he grunts, as if this single fact outweighs the ruins surrounding them. Perhaps it does. The Arcaneum's wards held when reality itself frayed, its oldest tomes pulsing with protections older than the college's founding. As the others cheer, Elara slips away, drawn to the one shelf that survived untouched, the Archmage's private collection. The journal's absence is a palpable thing, but the space it left behind hums with a different energy now. A single volume sits askew, its title embossed in peeling gilt. On the nature of forgetting, dawn finds her on the college's highest remaining balcony, the wind carrying the salt tang of the Sea of Ghosts. The Sijics' final words coil in her mind like smoke. Some doors, once opened, can never be fully shut. Below, the townsfolk pick through the wreckage of their homes, their faces etched with a resignation only those who live beneath Winterhold's shadow understand. Magic giveth, and magic taketh away. Alara's fingers tighten around the book's spine. The eye is gone, but the questions remain. Why did it wake now? Why call to her? And if it truly was a test, who, or what, was grading them? The first snowflakes of the season kiss her cheeks as she turns back inside. Ruin is just another kind of beginning, and Winterhold remembers. Berlina's fingers trace the fresh bandages around her wrists, the linen stark against her ashen skin. The Arcaneum's firelight paints her face in flickering amber, softening the shadows under her eyes, but not the weight behind them. They asked about you, she says, her voice low enough that the crackling logs nearly drown it out. Not just the journal, they wanted to know why the eye called to you specifically. Elara's grip tightens around her tankard, the mead inside long gone warm. There's no need to ask who they were. The golden gauntlets, the sneering precision, the way their interrogation spells left no marks, but made the air taste of burnt copper. The silence between them isn't empty. It hums with all the things they can't unsee. The way Ancano's body had fractured like stained glass under the eye's hunger. The Sijics' hollow-eyed warning. The way the college's stones still occasionally shiver, as if remembering the storm. Berlina breaks it first, nudging a charred scrap of parchment across the table, a half-drawn rune from the Midden, salvaged from her robes before the Thalmor took her. We missed something, she murmurs. The Arch-Mage's journal, the Sijics' visions, they weren't just about hiding the eye. They were a trail, and we've only followed the first marker. Alara exhales, watching the steam curl from her cup. The thought of stepping back into the shadows makes her bones ache, but the alternative, pretending the world is as it was before, is a lie too brittle to hold. Safely this time, she says, echoing Berlina's unspoken promise. The corner of the Dunmer's mouth quirks, defines safe. Outside, the wind carries the scent of melting frost and the distant chime of rebuilding hammers. Winterhold's wounds are fresh, but the college has always been a place where scars tell stories. Berlina stretches her legs toward the hearth, wincing only slightly. Tomorrow, she decides, we start with the restricted section, properly. The unspoken together lingers, warmer than the fire. Some quests end with fanfare and songs. Others simply fold into the rhythm of days, a quiet understanding that the real work isn't in grand battles, but in the patience of study, the slow piecing together of truths. The Thalmor will come again. If not them, then others drawn to the cracks in reality, the eye left behind. But for tonight, there's only the fire, the quiet, and the comfort of a friend who knows the weight of what you've carried. Berlina's head tilts toward the shelves where the oldest tomes sleep. Think Urag will forgive us if we accidentally borrow a few. Alara's laugh is soft, but it's the first real sound either of them has made in hours. The answer, of course, is no, but some risks are worth the scolding. The fire in Tolfdir's study burns low, casting long shadows across the stacks of half-finished treatises and cracked soul gems that clutter his desk. When he finally speaks, his voice carries the weight of centuries, like parchment smoothed by too many hands. You stood where others fled, he says, not looking up from the brittle scroll he's mending. Foolishness, perhaps, but the best students often are. A wry smile tugs at his beard as he sets down his quill, the ink still glistening on a fresh line of restoration runes. Elara's pulse stutters. An apprenticeship under Winterhold's most patient and most perilously curious master isn't just an honor. It's a lifeline thrown into the chasm of her unanswered questions. Yet the old mage's next words are edged like a dagger wrapped in velvet. Knowledge isn't a torch to light your way, child. It's a mirror and some reflections. His fingers brush the scroll's charred edge, where the ink twists into unnatural shapes. Well, let's just say not all truths enjoy being seen. The silence stretches, thick with the ghosts of choices not yet made. Outside, the wind howls through the college's shattered towers, a reminder that Winterhold's wounds are still fresh. Tolfdir doesn't offer platitudes about safety or guarantees. Instead, he slides a tarnished key across the desk, the kind that opens more than doors. The Archmage's old observatory, he murmurs. Needs airing out, and someone to listen when the stars decide to whisper. Alara's fingers close around the metal, cool against her palm. Acceptance isn't a word here. It's a breath held too long, finally released. I'll learn, she says, meeting his gaze. Not just the spells, the cost. Tolfdir's chuckle is a dry thing, like leaves skittering over stone. Oh, you'll learn that fastest of all. The fire pops, sending embers spiraling toward the rafters. Somewhere in the dark, a book snaps shut on its own. Neither of them flinches. The scent of aged parchment and iron gall ink hangs thick in the Arcaneum's quiet corners as Urag Grosheub towers over Elara, his tusked jaw working slowly, not in anger, but contemplation. Knew about that journal from the moment you first eyed that shelf, he grunts, flipping through a ledger with deliberate slowness. The admission lands like a falling tome, heavy and undeniable. His red-rimmed gaze flicks up, sharp as a dagger's edge. Had to see if you treat it like a thief or a scholar. The firelight catches the silver in his beard as he leans closer, his voice dropping to a gravelly whisper. Turns out you're both. Good. A key materializes in his calloused palm. Not iron or brass, but a sliver of what looks like petrified bone, etched with runes that make Alara's vision blur if she stares too long. Restricted sections got 3 layers, he explains, pressing it into her hand. The moment her fingers close around it, the air hums with a resonance that travels up her arm like the aftershock of a spell. What you found, that's the appetizer. His chuckle is the sound of grinding stones. Course, most who go digging for the main course end up forgetting their own names. Or worse, remembering things that weren't meant to be known. The shelves he leads her to aren't hidden so much as overlooked. An alcove behind a statue of Shalador, its outstretched arm pointing directly at a seam in the stone, almost too fine to see. Urag's knuckles wrap a sequence against the wall, and the runes on Alara's key flare violet. The stone yawns open, exhaling air so cold it crystallizes in her lungs. Inside, the books aren't chained. They're sleeping, bound in leather that still breathes faintly, their spines stitched shut with silver wire that pulses like a slow heartbeat. Rule 1. Urag growls as Alara's fingers hover over a volume titled The Black Stars and Their Hungers. No notes. What these tomes teach, they carve into you. Rule 2. He catches her wrist, his grip firm but not unkind. When the pages start whispering your name backwards, walk away, even if you think you're imagining it. The last thing he shows her is a ledger older than the college itself, its entries written in a dozen hands over centuries. Names fill the margins, some crossed out in black ink, others circled in what looks like dried blood. Alara's breath catches as she spots the Arch-Mage signature, the ink unnaturally fresh beside dates from 200 years past. Urag's finger taps a blank space near the bottom. Your turn to pick a pen name. Choose something the dark won't recognize. As the hidden door grinds shut behind her, the weight of the key in her palm feels less like permission and more like a dare. The real test, she realizes, was never about finding secrets. It's about surviving them. The wind bites at Alara's cheeks as she climbs the last spiral step to the college's highest tower, her boots scuffing against frost-slick stone. Dawn hasn't yet touched the horizon, but the sky bleeds indigo and violet over the sea of ghosts, a canvas of unanswered questions. Below, Winterhold's ruins huddle like broken teeth, their shadows stretching toward the college walls. This is where the Arch-Mage once stood, where Tolfdir still comes to trace constellations in the air, where generations of mages have whispered secrets to the wind. And now it's her turn. The journal's warnings hum in her memory, its pages a labyrinth of half-truths and riddles. The Sijics didn't just take the eye, they took the story of it, leaving behind only echoes and the gnawing sense that the real danger wasn't the artifact itself, but the hunger it exposed. Ancano's fate proved that magic isn't a tool, not really. It's a conversation, and some voices in that dialogue have been silent for too long. Her fingers tighten around the obsidian key Urag gave her, its edges sharp enough to draw blood if she grips too hard. The restricted section's tomes had been cryptic, yes, but the real revelation was in the gaps, the way certain histories ended abruptly, as if the ink itself had fled the page. The Sijics weren't just reclusive monks, they were curators of a truth, too volatile for parchment, and they'd been watching Winterhold long before the eye stirred. A gust howls through the tower's open arches, carrying with it the salt-kissed scent of the sea and something else, a whisper of ozone, the ghost of a spell not quite dissolved. Elara closes her eyes, letting the cold sharpen her resolve. This time, she won't chase clues like a desperate scholar. She'll lay traps of her own. The college's library holds secrets, but so do its people. Tolfdir's careful evasions, Berlina's unease around certain runes, even Urag's habit of glancing at the ceiling when asked about the Midden's oldest chambers. They're pieces of a puzzle she's only begun to assemble. The first sliver of sun breaches the horizon, painting the ice floes in fire. Somewhere beneath Winterhold, the earth thrums with the residue of the eye's power, a vibration too faint for most to notice. But Alara feels it in her bones, a rhythm like a heartbeat under stone, The Sijics think they've buried the truth. The Thalmor believe they've been defeated. Both are wrong. She unrolls a scrap of vellum stolen from the Arcaneum's darkest corner. A map not of places, but of silences, where the records end, where the wards thicken, where even the rats refuse to nest. These are the places that matter. These are the doors no one wants opened. The wind rises again, tugging at her cloak like an impatient teacher. Alara smiles, tucking the map into her sleeve. Let them whisper, let them hide. Every secret leaves a shadow, and she's learned how to raid the dark. The College of Winterhold stands quieter now, its wounds still fresh but no longer bleeding. The shattered spires have been coaxed back into the sky, stone by painstaking stone, their new edges softened by layers of protective enchantments. Yet even as apprentices laugh in the courtyard and masters debate theories over steaming mugs of spiced wine, there's a hesitance in the air, a collective inhale, as if the very walls are waiting for the next tremor. Elara walks these halls differently now, not with the wide-eyed hunger of a novice, nor the reckless certainty of someone who stared into the abyss and walked away unscathed. Her steps are measured. Her gaze lingers on the cracks between the stones, the places where the college's magic still stutters like a heartbeat after a long fall. The Arcaneum has become her second home, though Urag no longer glares at her from behind the shelves. Instead, he slides texts across the table with a grunt sometimes helpful, sometimes cautionary, always with a glint in his eye that suggests he knows more than he'll ever say. The forbidden section still whispers, but Alara has learned the rhythm of its silence. She reads between the lines now, in the gaps where histories have been redacted, in the way certain spells are taught with deliberate omissions. Winterhold's greatest lesson wasn't in the grand battles or the unraveling of reality. It was in the quiet, understanding that magic, like truth, is rarely what it seems at first glance. Berlina finds her one evening in the Hall of the Elements, tracing idle patterns in the air as the mage lights flicker overhead. The Dunmer's hands are no longer bandaged, but she still rubs her wrists absently when she thinks no one's looking. "They're calling you the Archmage Shadow," she murmurs, nodding toward a group of first years who scatter like startled birds when Alara glances their way. The title sits uneasily. Power, she's learned, isn't just about how much you can hold. It's about knowing when to let go. Tolfdir's observatory has become her sanctuary, its domed ceiling alive with constellations that shift according to no known sky. Here, with the scent of frost murium and ink thick in the air, she pieces together the fragments the Sijics left behind. The Eye of Magnus may be gone, but its echo lingers, not just in Winterhold stones, but in the way magic itself seems thinner in places, as if stretched too tight. Some nights, when the northern lights dance particularly fierce, she swears she can hear it, a hum just beyond hearing, a presence just beyond sight. The world beyond the college's walls still simmers with unanswered questions. The Thalmor's presence in Skyrim grows bolder, their interrogations more pointed. Whispers coil through taverns and guild halls of artifacts, stirring in long-buried ruins, of dreams that leave their dreamers fluent in dead languages. Elara's map of silences has only grown larger, its blank spaces more tantalizing than any spelled scroll, but she's no longer the apprentice who rushed headlong into the dark. When the next summons comes a brittle letter, sealed with a sigil that makes her fingertips tingle, she doesn't burn it. She doesn't answer it either. Instead, she tucks it between the pages of a well-worn journal, its spine cracked from use. There will be time enough for new adventures, for unraveling the next great mystery. For now, there are students to teach, wounds to mend, and the slow, patient work of ensuring that Winterhold's next chapter isn't written in the same blood as the last. The snow falls softly beyond the stained glass windows, muffling the world beyond. Somewhere in the depths of the Midden, the earth thrums, not with menace, but with possibility. Elara breathes in the quiet, the weight of her choices light as a feather in her palm. The Arcane will always call, but this time, she'll choose when to answer.